How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to AFTV Live. Hope you're all good, hope you're all well. As you can see, I'm here with Laurie. What are you saying, Laurie?
How's it going, man?
All good, man.
It's always good to see you, bro.
Yeah, trust. It's been a little while since we've done one of these.
Yeah, that's correct. I'm looking forward to this one, man. I'm looking forward to this one.
And obviously, as you can see from the title, it's going to be heavily orientated around Martinelli. I've also got some of the free agents coming up this summer that we can look at across the top 5 leagues and see if there's any names that, you know, pick up any interest in terms of coming into Arsenal. Maybe not. Looking at the names, I don't think there is many, but we will discuss.
No, Martinelli's a very interesting subject matter. It's been on the it's been a topic of a lot of conversation. So yeah, man, let's do it. Looking forward to it. Yeah,
well, let's start it because recently Henri's mentioned his name in a conversation about Vinicius and left wingers in world football. I've mentioned recently that with the season that Saka's been having, it seems that Martinelli's praise has kind of been minimal in comparison. And I guess we're in England and Saka's the Haaland product and he deserves all the praise in the world. I'm not saying don't praise Saka, praise Martinelli more. What I'm saying is I think Martinelli deserves just as much praise. I don't know what you think about it.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right in saying that perhaps it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit as to how good he's been this season. Maybe some people weren't expecting it. But yeah, there's no doubt he's been one of our best players this season without any shadow of a doubt. I mean, like 14 goals this season, 4 assists. I mean, that tells its own story. He's been dynamic, man.
Do you think it's been unexpected? Because in years gone past, when asked about who has the highest ceiling, I know a lot of fans have tended to say, you know, Martinelli looks to have the highest ceiling. But then you look at Saka's season so far and you look at how much he's kicked on. I think their ceilings are just as high as each other's at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're right. I would say that, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think if I was asked to assess them, I would say that Saka probably has the edge in terms of being a pure footballer. Well, where I would say that Martinelli possibly exceeds Saka is that with that pace and aggression that he has, when he's in full flight with the ball, there's very few people that can live with him, man. I mean, we saw it a few years ago when he scored that unbelievable goal against Chelsea, end to end. There's not too many players that can do that.
He did the same against Sporting. Remember when he broke from the halfway line? That defender just got back just in time.
Whereas I would describe Saka as possibly a more cultured player, which is not to say that Martinelli doesn't possess culture. Of course he does. But you know what I'm saying? I think Saka has that little bit of edge there. But in terms of raw, dynamic pace and aggression, Martinelli is a very, very exciting player. Yeah,
I mean, the way I look at it in terms of comparing the two, I think Saka's probably the better all-round player.
Yeah.
You know, he can link up play, he can, you know, pass, he can assist, as we saw this season, whereas Martinelli is probably the bigger goal threat. That's not to say Martinelli can't do what Saka does and Saka can't do what Martinelli does, because they're very close in terms of productivity. But I feel like our biggest goal threat this season has come from Martinelli.
Yeah, you would be right in saying that. And it's funny because I remember there was maybe it might have been a month and a half ago, something like that, where the goals had kind of dried up.
Yeah.
And he lost his place, didn't he?
Yeah, that one game Trossard started.
And it's almost like he felt offended by that, man. And then he come back and he's not looked back.
Yeah, you know he even came on in that game and got his first goal in a run that's led to 7 and 8. Yeah,
which is what you want to see, isn't it? When a player feels he's been slighted in that way. And when I say slighted, I don't mean it's a personal thing.
Yeah.
But professionally, they think, nah, man, I've been left out. I need to get back here. I'll show them that I can do my thing. And he got his opportunity, and he's, as I said, no looking back.
Yeah, I mean,
and I think with Martinelli, this has always been my kind of thoughts on him. As good as he was, there was that end product debate, wasn't there, about Martinelli in previous seasons. Like, we could see the raw talent is there, but there were occasions where you think, could have possibly have done better with that chance, or did he make the right decision? But now it's coming together a lot more, and you're seeing, as you said, Turkish, where you talked about potential and ceiling and things like that. He's only 21 and it's starting to come together, which can only be a good thing both for himself and for Arsenal.
And he's currently the highest scoring Brazilian in the top 5 European leagues,
note that,
with 14 goals. He's 1 goal away from matching the Premier League record for a Brazilian player, Firmino with 15, so he's 2 goals away from breaking the Brazilian
You'll probably get that
record.
this weekend.
Well, fingers crossed he does, because
You know what, I need to slow down like that because
you're sticking your neck on the line quite a bit recently. At 2-0 up against Liverpool, it's a game
Don't
done.
worry. Hey, listen, I'll tell you a quick story. I was in the gym today, right, and just doing my thing, minding my own business, you know what I mean? And a guy, I forget his name now. Oh, shit, I forget his name. I've spoken to him previously, but yeah, he come up to me and said, yeah, I hope you've learnt your lesson. I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I saw you on the stream on Sunday saying that the game was over at 2-0. And I thought to myself, oh, no, not another one. I've had a few people hit me up on social media and WhatsApp and people like that. Yeah, and this guy, man, he was saying, listen, man, I hope you learnt your lesson. You know what I mean? You were premature there. You should know better. He was proper admonishing me, but in a good-natured way.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I said to him, I'm not going to do that again. And here I am now saying that Martinelli's going to get 2-0.
Didn't you say last night that we're not losing at City? I saw a clip of that as well.
Gosh.
Yeah,
I'm
you
becoming
have,
the clip
you
merchant.
have said quite a bit.
I'm overtaking Cecil as a clip merchant. No, but I mean, what I said, both about the 2-0 and about City, is based on genuine confidence.
Yeah.
I believe in the team. And I'm also one of those that I like to speak confidently because I think you can speak things into existence more often than not. You know what I'm saying? Like if you speak it and believe it and you can achieve it. I've always believed in that concept. So when you hear me say things like that, I'm not necessarily throwing shade on other teams, or it's just because I believe in what Arsenal are doing. I can see it happening. So when we went 2-0 up and we were playing so well, I'm like, yeah, game done. In retrospect, that looks a bit foolhardy, but that's what I felt at the time. I just need to rein it in a bit.
We'll see. We'll
see.
I hope you're right about that. Yeah, that's what Cecil's in the comments. He said, "Oh, yeah, I heard that regarding the clips." I think you're safe there, Laurie. I think
Cecil, I've got a little bit of a way to go to overtake Cecil as the clip king, but I've got to watch myself. As I was told today in the gym, you've got to be more careful next time. So I'm going to try and do that.
And Boo says, Laurie, you've gone a bit mad lately. You need to calm down.
Hey, it's all in good fun. But you know what? Like I said, it was no cap.
Yeah,
no cap. That is how I felt at the time. I also feel, and I still do believe that we can get a result at City. I do believe it, you know what I mean? And if I believe it, difference between me and some other people, I'm going to say it. You know what I mean? That's how, if I believe that's what's going to happen, then I've got no problem in coming forward and saying it. It's just that maybe next time, if we do go 2-0 up against City, I will not be saying the game done. Yeah. You know what I mean? But hey, it is what it is.
Going back to Martinelli, we've got Super Mick Arteta says, sometimes I do wish that Martinelli would pass it a bit quicker. And I remember you used to say
I did actually,
something along those lines. I think slowly but surely he has been adjusting that part of his game, being more efficient in the final third. But he's also so young. I mean, I've just mentioned highest scoring Brazilian in the top 5 league. He's on the cusp of breaking the Premier League record for a Brazilian player in terms of goals scored, and none of them being penalties as well on top of that.
Good point.
And he's only 21.
You're only 21, man. I mean, listen, you said it, Turkish. The guy's ceiling is his potential is limitless, man. He really, and what I like about him as well, he appears to have a very good attitude for a young player. I mean, I'm sure you've seen the stuff today with Dele Alli. And it's disappointing, really, even though he's a former Tottenham player. But come on now, we have a little laugh about things like that, but it's quite sad, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because what you're seeing there is a person who, for whatever reason, there might be personal demons going on, but he's not made the most of his talent, and that is always sad. And you look at somebody like Martinelli, he appears to have his head on the right way. I mean, let's not forget, he's a lad that's come to England from Brazil, different culture, different language. He's come here pretty much by himself. I know he's got family support, but you know, he's had to knuckle down and do his thing, and he's done that. So all credit to him.
Yeah, 100%. And Joshua said, why do we think penalties are easy? Ask Salah if it's easy. It's not necessarily thinking penalties are easy, but sometimes you have no part to play in winning the penalty, and then all of a sudden you've got a free shot on goal to get a goal. So non-penalty goals are, it is a factor when discussing how many goals a player has scored in a season.
Yeah, absolutely. If you chat to most strikers, they would want to take penalties for no other reason than you can use that to enhance your goal stats.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you're not going to score every single one. I mean, even Ivan Toney missed one the other day. But most strikers, they would want to take penalties because, as I said before, it's an opportunity for them to increase their goal stats.
We got a comment here, a bit of tongue in cheek or a bit of shade here. Was it Agbero? Who's Arsenal playing today? Oh wait, no more Thursdays for us. No more Thursdays for us. I know we're out, but there's no Thursdays for us next year. So enjoy Tuesday, Wednesday nights, Champions League, back at the Emirates Stadium. I want to go back.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I can't wait. I want to go back to what Thierry Henry said, because he was asked on CBS Sports about whether Vinicius is the best left winger in the world, and this is what Henry had to say. He said, at the moment, yes, you have guys that are doing okay at Arsenal in the Premier League. He said Martinelli is coming, but in the last 2 years, Vinicius Jr. has been solid. Do you know why I'd give him being ahead of others? Where he is coming from an unwanted guy in a dressing room to a guy that gets kicked around every game, getting booed by the fans, abused in pre-season. Again, the guy delivers. They try kick him, they wanted him out, he still delivers. And I think
that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, it is a fair assessment. I mean, it depends whether you class Mbappe as a left-sided forward. I would. You know, I know he tends to occupy. Well,
with Mbappe, this is my classification. I would say that he's the best player in the world right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can make an argument for other players being slightly better in their respective positions. So you could argue, for example, that Haaland is the best striker in the world on current form. Or you could argue that Vinicius Jr. is the best right winger or left winger or whatever. But you look at Mbappe, and I would say he's the best player in the world at the moment because he can play in a variety of positions and still be just as effective.
Lethal.
But that's you know...
No, I think
these things are subjective. That's my opinion.
When we move on to the free agents coming up this summer, I mean, it's the end of one cycle in football, and the free agents coming up, that kind of indicates that Mbappe is the new cycle, Haaland is the new cycle, and when comparing them as footballers, there's no comparison. Mbappe, in terms of being a pure footballer, in my opinion, is a different level to Haaland, but Haaland numbers-wise is very much up there, and he's going to continue to be up there at this rate.
And for me, you know what, it's good that we're talking about other players other than Messi and Ronaldo. It goes to show that there's evolution in football, you know what I mean? Because a few years ago, all we would be talking about is Ronaldo and Messi. And with respect to those two GOATs or greats, now we're talking about some of the younger guys coming through. And who knows, in a few years' time, we might be including Martinelli and Saka in those conversations. And, you know what I mean? That's exciting for me, bro.
Earlier on in the chat, Waves did say something along the lines of, because I see AFTV did reply to it. Let me just see. He said he's heavily overrated by Arsenal fans, if anything. He's not won anything, which shouldn't be the measuring stick when judging a player.
Who's he talking about?
Talking about Martinelli here.
Okay.
So he was asked to name the left wingers that, you know, he'd put above. He mentioned Vinicius Jr., Kvaratskhelia, the Napoli winger, Mane, Sane, Rashford. I don't know.
I think we're talking about players on current form, to be fair. So if he's not won anything, I think that's a bit of an unfair thing to throw in, because we're talking about players on current form.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He will win things. I mean, he could easily, I won't say easily, but he could very well win the Premier League this year.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean?
And be a big part of it. He could be our top scorer in winning a Premier League title. He mentioned Rashford as well. And I remember a couple of months ago, you know, a lot of United fans and to be honest, fans in general of other clubs would laugh at the facts or laugh at the comparing the two, Martinelli and Rashford. What do you think in comparison to Marcus Rashford, who at times this season, listen, we just mentioned earlier that Saka gets most applauded at Arsenal, and listen, he is the star boy, he is a Haaland product, and that, you know, plays a heavy part in it. But over the season, Rashford's got heavy plaudits as well.
Oh yeah, deservedly so.
Deservedly so. But Martinelli's got very similar numbers, and like you said, he could be leading the team in terms of goals to a Premier League title. He's at least led in terms of goals into a title race. Yeah,
exactly.
How would you compare the two?
That's a good question, man. I mean, Rashford, to be fair to him, He had a very indifferent season last season. A lot of people were writing him off. So for him to turn it around this year in such spectacular fashion, he deserves a lot of credit. But Martinelli, listen, man, he's a young man on the rise. And if you look at it, him and Saka and one or two others have spearheaded Arsenal's form this season to the point where we're serious contenders for the title. Who would have thought that would have happened? I certainly didn't see that last season. My aspirations for this season was a Champions League place. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and say that, yeah, man, I thought that we'd be challenging for the title with 8-9 games to go. I didn't see that happening at all. What I thought is that we would be in and around 4th, 5th, and maybe even 3rd, but I didn't see us challenging for the title. We've got a very good chance of winning it, and one of the major reasons for that is the form of Martinelli, who's been phenomenal this season.
100%.
And he deserves all the accolades and praise that he's getting.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't swap Martinelli for Rashford. Obviously, age plays a part in that as well, and like you said, Rashford does deserve plaudits for this season, because last season was a difficult one for him. I remember a lot of United fans essentially giving up on him. We've been in that situation with multiple players. I think Xhaka's probably the best example at Arsenal right now in terms of me giving up on him. We're not going to do anything with him in the first 11. He's managed to turn it around, similar to what Rashford's done at United.
Hey, listen, I can remember, and I'm not going to call out his name. There's a Man United fan that we all know. I'm not going to call his name. And he was calling Rashford Trashford last season. Look at the turnaround. It just goes to show, when these guys, top quality guys like that, you can never really write them off. Because they've always got the talent. It could be just something happening in the background. Maybe it's a personal issue, or maybe just a lack of form. But as I always say, Turkish, form is temporary, class is permanent. And I think that's what Rashford has showed this season.
And someone said similar stats. Martinelli's got 14 goals, Rashford's got 28. I'm looking at Premier League here, plus, what's Rashford got, like 5-6 goals in that League Cup run that included Burnley, Charlton, Nottingham Forest and Newcastle. That I'm looking at the Premier League here, the bread and butter, and Martinelli's got 14, Rashford's got 15, so it's pretty even in that. I think they both got 4 assists as well, so
they're both very good players, both exciting players. Martinelli slightly younger, I believe.
If you had to pick a team of the season now, who would be the left winger for you?
I think you'd have to go with Martinelli.
Martinelli.
You'd have to. Yeah, you'd have to, man.
Regardless of getting over the line.
And that is no disrespect to Marcus Rashford, who, as I've said before, I do rate. But you also have to take into consideration where Arsenal are in the league, which means that for all Rashford's, and what he's achieved with Man United this season, what Martinelli's done has been more instrumental insofar as the team that he's playing for currently tops the table. Whereas Rashford can't say that. So that's got to count for something.
Very true.
But they're both very good players, both very exciting. I mean, Rashford has similar attributes to Martinelli. I think he's more... I don't think he's
more polished.
Yeah. I was going to say, I don't think he's as explosive as Martinelli is. That 0 to 10, boom.
Yeah, Martinelli's quite unpredictable.
Yeah.
Rashford seems a bit more polished, but I guess
that comes to an experience.
It comes with age, experience. So we expect to see Martinelli kick on in that
let's
aspect.
Not forget as well that Martinelli, he's broken into the Brazilian team, went to the World Cup. Okay, there was a disappointing ending for Brazil. I personally think they should have played Martinelli more at that World Cup. What do you think? He didn't get that much game time.
He plays in a position that's very difficult to break into. I mean, they got Vinicius Junior. Doesn't Neymar play there quite often? I'm not too sure actually.
But Martinelli can play through the through the line as a forward as well.
That's actually true as well. And someone said, who said that Martinelli hasn't won anything? He's won an FA Cup. I forgot how much Martinelli did play a part in that FA Cup run off the top of my head. Obviously, when you think of that FA Cup, you think of Aubameyang.
Yeah, you do.
Because of that semi-final and the final.
He was the spearhead for that.
Yeah.
A fact that a lot of Arsenal fans seem to forget. But anyway, we won't talk about that. Because I'll get accused of being an Aubameyang fanboy, which, maybe I am. I don't know. But, to go back to, Martinelli did play a part. But listen, he would have been very young then. He's coming into his own now. And what I'm seeing of him now, I mean, if he continues to progress at this rate, what a player Arsenal are going to have on their hands, because 21 and he's blowing up the spot like this.
Yeah.
You can only see him getting better, stronger, quicker.
Yeah.
And that spells trouble for a lot of Premier League defenders, because I think he's going to be at Arsenal for a few years to come as well.
We've got United View in the building and said, what on earth are my ears hearing? And then in brackets, he's got flex.
No, I'm not going to say it was flex, but trust me, it's a United fan that you guys know well, and you use the term Trashford. I'm gonna stick up for flex. It was not flex. Okay. I'm gonna confirm.
You're ruling him out of it.
But Flex knows who he is.
Oh, okay. So more clues there.
Yeah.
We've got more super chats in. Lucas earlier on the whole Cecil subject said at least Laurie's not printing t-shirts.
That's true. That's true.
I thought Cecil done us with that one, but we managed to keep on the form. And listen, if we win that Premier League title, then that t-shirt goes down in history with it. Young Gunner says, as soon as I
think I might get a t-shirt called Game Done.
Game done, yeah. Well, let the season finish.
Yeah, let the season finish.
you can get that.
Game done.
Big up AFTV merch as well. Shop.AFTV that you might see game done.
Game done
in the merch section come the summer.
AFTV Game Done.
Young Gunner says, as soon as I saw Martinelli in his first pre-season, I knew we had something special and always saw him as a centre forward. However, on the wing, he's class. His development since we signed him has been amazing. Me, personally, there was times I wanted to see him down the middle because of how jarring it was seeing Lacazette and Eddie, kind of rotating and not really providing much. Obviously,
I get the impression you're not Eddie's biggest fan. Why is that?
No, listen, Eddie's done his thing this season in terms of, slotting in at a time where that Jesus injury felt like it's going to derail what good work we had done in the first 14. Eddie came in, he scored goals. They did dry up. And that's why Trossard found his place in. And now it's going to be very difficult, in my opinion, for Eddie to get minutes. But
he can still
win the league. I mean, he's played his part in it.
Yeah. Listen, he can still make a contribution. There's games left. We're hearing that he's close to coming back. He will get minutes. There's plenty of games. You know what these games are like. They can often be a war of attrition, physical, demanding, injuries. You know what I mean? Niggles, knocks, loss of form. So he will get minutes. It's up to him when he gets his opportunity to take it.
And Flex's name was in brackets because he's Flex talking. He's also sent in another super chat said, no, I'm talking about Martinelli over Rashford. Kiss my teeth.
Yeah, but he would say that.
Of course he would.
He's supposed to say that.
It'd be interesting to see what Flex thought of Rashford last year. I might have to go back and do some research and holler at Scarfuggery for an end of season clip. But Flex, let me know.
Flex, you're supposed to say that, bro. You're going to say. I don't expect you to agree with it, but the comparisons though are real, aren't they? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
The comparisons are real. You cannot deny that. And what I would say, as I said before, is that if you look at Martinelli, where he has a slight edge on Rashford, he's a little bit more explosive. He's got that naked aggression. That's not to say that Rashford doesn't have that, but I'm just saying that Martinelli is a bit more explosive in that way. Fair. We've seen it. You saw the goals he scored, like it's Chelsea. I named that as an example. He's got that in his locker, without a doubt.
Quite a few of them. Aston Mack as well in the building. Hope you're good, Aston. Last year we were upset with Arteta's handling of Martinelli. Now look at him. Exactly why we shouldn't give up on Smith Rowe or Vieira. Trust the process. What's your team of the season so far? That's an interesting question. Let's do it. Goalkeeper. Ramsdale's in with a shout.
He's
for
in
sure.
With a shout. You might have to go with the Liverpool keeper.
Or Newcastle.
But
the Newcastle play as a defensive unit.
That's right.
Liverpool.
Do you go on? I often find with these things, do you go on just pure talent or do you go on current form? Because those things are two separate
pure talent.
entities.
You're going Alisson, right?
Yeah. But maybe on current form, you might go with Pope or
Ramsdale.
You know what I mean?
I'm going to say Ramsdale.
Yeah, let's say Ramsdale. Why not?
Let's say
I wouldn't
Ramsdale.
argue with that though.
Let's say Ramsdale.
I mean, you saw on Sunday, Ramsdale, man. When we were up against it, he come up with some 3 or 4 excellent saves.
Yeah, and Dave mentioned Raya at Brentford as well. Good keeper.
Yeah.
I think he's made the most saves in the league, if I'm not mistaken. Well, it was last time I checked, but he's a good keeper. Let's go left back. Who would be the left back for you?
Boy.
Zinni's in with a shout.
Yeah.
As much as defensively, there's a lot of question marks over his head. What he brings in the modern day systems and that, he's perfect for it.
He is, especially going forward.
Luke Shaw's had a decent season, but I would pick Zinni ahead of him.
Yeah. Luke Shaw has proved as well that he can play different positions.
Ake's a very good shout.
You know what? Nathan Ake's done really well this season. I was saying it on a stream the other day. If you've seen his progression, remember he was at Bournemouth and you know, he looked a decent player, but you didn't expect him to scale these heights that he's doing currently. He's in that City team now, man, and he looks part of the furniture, really.
A lot of City's players, they come in and they have a year where there's a lot of fans saying, oh, that wasn't a great signing, and then the season after they kind of kick on. I think Grealish has done the same this season. But
and it's interesting you should say that, because myself and one of the other contributors, I think it was on the watch along, the DR watch along I did the other day, we were talking about Calvin Phillips. And a few of the people on there were saying, no, I don't think he's going to make it as a City player. And I actually quoted Nathan Ake and saying to them, do not write Calvin Phillips off. When he was at Leeds, he was a quality player. He's an England international. Okay, it's not quite worked out for him at City, especially when you saw the stuff that Pep had said about him being overweight. But that's not to say he can't recover his form.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? I mean, look at Rashford last season to this season.
Very true.
You know what I mean?
Look at Xhaka last season. Well, a lot of people think he had a good season last season. I don't think it was as good as people say it was, but this season it's chalk and cheese in comparison to his previous.
And for you to say that, because I know me and you have had back and forths about Xhaka.
But that shows that can be one round. It shows that it's not an agenda against a certain player, and I won't ever change my opinion if I see something different.
No, listen, man, you're a fair guy. It's not personal with you. That's how you feel.
Yeah.
Me and you have had back and forths about Xhaka. We've also gone back and forth with Eddie. And that is how you feel, and I respect that. You speak from the heart, and I respect your knowledge of football. So when you're telling me something like that, I'm going to listen. I may not always agree with you, but hey, it is what it is. That's what football's all about, isn't it? It's about having your opinions and being able to express them, and you know what I mean, taking other people's thoughts on board. So
very true. So we're going Ake left back, let's say.
Yeah, why not?
I think that makes sense defensively, for sure. Right back, I think it's only two people, Ben White and Trippier at Newcastle. This is an Arsenal channel, so I don't know if I'll probably lean.
Ben White has played phenomenally this season.
He's pretty much been flawless.
Yeah, and again, a potential title-winning player. So yeah, I would have to go for Ben White, man.
Yeah, we agree on that one. A lot of the chat mentioning White, a few people mentioning Trippier as well. If that is fair, like I said, it will be out of those two. Centre backs.
Oh, this is a good one.
This is a good one, because I think Botman for Newcastle has been close to, you know, sensational. I mean, in terms
left-sided or right-sided we go? Because to me, Gabriel's got to be in there somewhere, bro.
Yeah, no, Botman is left-sided, isn't he?
Yeah. To me, Gabriel's got to be in there, bro. Because he's another one whose rate of progression, his improvement this season. I can remember going back and forth with a few Arsenal fans. I think Lee Judges was one. Sorry to call you out like this, Lee, but he had his reservations about Gabriel, because Gabriel can, or was, he can be a bit impulsive.
Yeah.
He's a natural born winner, isn't it? He's aggressive. If the ball's there to be won, he's going to try and win it. Sometimes that can get the better of you in that split second. You have to know when to tackle and perhaps when to just shield or stand off, or you know what I mean, your decision making's got to be spot on. I think it's fair to say that previously Gabriel had made a few impulsive decisions.
Yeah.
He seems to have cut that out of his game. Not completely, but he's eradicated it to a large 100%. Degree. So what you're seeing now is a much more, to use a term you've used, Turkish, polished defender.
Yeah.
Add that to his physicality, add that to the fact that he can pop up with the odd goal as well. He's been phenomenal this season. Also, his physical presence is there. He's got leadership qualities. You often see when Arsenal are playing, you would have seen it, Turkish.
Yeah.
He's, you know, talking to the guys in the team, organising. I like it, man. He's definitely one of the centre backs of the season.
Again,
so
Arsenal
far.
channel, so we lean towards Gabriel, but I think Botman deserves a shout out as well.
Yeah, Botman's good.
It'd be a very, it's a very close quarter. That's the left side.
The lad at Manchester United as well,
Martinez.
He's been very good.
He has been. It's just that I see Waves mention him as well, but at the same time, he's had games where he's been dumped on as well. And listen, it's his first season in the league, so I get that. But for this season, I wouldn't put him on the same level as Gabriel or Botman. So in terms of the conversation we're having, Martinez deserves a shout.
He gets a special mention, but if I'm going to go for one, especially on the left side, it's got to be Gabriel for me.
And on the right side, I'm going Saliba.
Oh yeah, Saliba. And I was going to say as well, one of the things in centre backs, you will know this, Turkish, by watching football over the years, is that it's partnerships. Yeah. And what you have with Gabriel and Saliba, to me, is a perfect partnership, because the two, how can I put it? The way they play together, it just works. Doesn't it? They complement each other.
That's part of the selection.
Yeah,
because a few people are mentioning Stones, and Stones
has been good.
Has probably had
although
his
he's
best
been playing more in
season
midfield now,
recently. Yeah, he's probably had his best season for City. I'm not a City fan, so I don't know for sure, but yeah, he's probably having his best season for City. Diaz is another shout. But in terms of the partnership Gabriel and Saliba have, how young he is, how good he's been for the majority. Don't get it twisted, Saliba's had moments. I wouldn't say he's been dumped on, but he's had moments this season where
I remember when we resumed after the World Cup, there was a few people saying that Saliba was not showing the form he'd shown pre the World Cup. You know, he'd gone out to the World Cup. There was that talk, but recently, man, I mean, listen, he's not in the team now, and you're seeing how good he is. No disrespect to Rob Owen, but you're seeing how much Saliba is missed. He has the pace, he has the control, he has the football ability. He's like he reminds me, when I look at Saliba now, he looks like what Van Dijk was looking like a few years back. That complete centre half that's got all the physical attributes, but he's got the football ability to go with it.
I think to close the gap, he needs the experience.
Which
that will
can
only come with time.
Exactly. So. But him and Gabriel, man, there's no better central pairing partnership in the Premier League, is my view. What do you think?
Yeah.
And that's why those two have got to play.
We've got Arsenal channel, Gabriel Saliba.
But listen, I would challenge people out there to give me a better pairing this season.
Yeah, I know United fans were trying with Martinez Varane at one point, and then the 7-0 happened, and then that all went quiet. No shade. That's what happened. That's literally what happened. I'm not because I know United fans are going to be right. The Waves, I think his Waves is a United fan. I'm not throwing shade. I'm just saying what happened.
Well, that is a reality.
Conversation. United fans. What about Martinez?
You can't escape it. You can't escape it.
7-0 happened, and
you can't escape that, man. You can't escape that.
Number 6. I have a few options: Rodri, Partey, Casemiro, but how many games has Casemiro been available for and started this season for me?
He keeps getting himself sent off, doesn't he? But
and he didn't come straight into the side at the start of the season. I mean, he started 15 games out of the 29 played so far, so just about half.
Yeah, you got Casemiro, you got Declan Rice. There's a few there. I think I might have to go Casemiro, swallow my pride a little bit and go
even
Casemiro.
with the lack of games, because Rodri started 28 out of the 29 they've played. Partey has actually done well in terms of being available for us this season.
Partey's also had availability issues with injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what? I think I'm going to go with my first choice, Casemiro.
I get that, because I think Casemiro is the best of the three when you look at the last 5 years. This season, when he's played, he's been the difference.
He has, and he's popped up with some very important goals.
But I probably would lean towards Rodri, just because of his availability, and then obviously maybe recency bias when you see the banger he scored against Bayern Munich. I know we're talking Premier League, but
that was phenomenal.
That was mad.
And that was with his wrong foot as well. So cool wrong foot. I was doing a watch along, and when he scored that, man, seriously, I could not believe what I was watching. It kind of reminded me, in a way, when Vincent Kompany scored that long range effort
against Leicester.
Yeah. When City went on to win the title that year, it wasn't the same type of goal, but it's the the effect, isn't it? When you're watching it and you see that goal and you think,
like,
wow.
Yeah,
it was that moment.
A wow moment. You're going Partey, I'm going Rodri.
No, I'm going Casemiro.
Oh, sorry, Casemiro.
But
I'm going
it
Rodri.
is. There are a lot of candidates.
There are. Let's go into the number 8 position. Obviously, Arsenal channel. We'll mention Xhaka first. He's done very well this season, but I also look at Newcastle and Bruno Guimaraes. I think he's been quality.
Xhaka is worth a shout, you know, for no other reason than the fact that prior to this season, and let's be honest as well, the role he's performing is different to what he'd been performing in previous seasons for Arsenal. So he's almost had to learn a new role.
Yeah,
he's getting forward
fair.
more.
That's fair.
Scoring goals. I mean, you saw a couple of weeks ago the headed goal he scored.
Yep. He's got 5
he's been
goals,
phenomenal.
6 assists in the league.
Yeah.
Which is...
I'd give him the edge over Bruno this season. I would.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would. I'm not saying he's a better player. I mean, we spoke earlier about what's the criteria going to be. Is it going to be talent or current form? I guess you'd have to go on current form. And if you went on current form, you'd have to say Xhaka.
Yeah, I get that. I see the chat saying McAllister as well, and that's actually
he is a good
name
player.
I forgot to mention. I'd probably
World Cup winner as well.
Just not to make this a City Arsenal combined 11. I might include McAllister in there. I might include McAllister in there. World Cup winner in between as well. Been ever present for them. Probably the best goal scorer out of the 3 off the top of my head. Yeah, he's got more goals than Xhaka. He's got more goals than Bruno. Yeah, I'll give it to McAllister because Brighton have been so good this season as well. I think they deserve.
I'm going to go Granit because I've been a long time advocate of Granit.
Fair. Would you take, just on the subject, would you take McAllister this season as an upgrade / rotation option for Xhaka in that position?
I'll tell you what I would take. It's Bellingham. We spoke about it yesterday on the show, myself and Robbie. No, but on that Bellingham thing, and I don't want to like regurgitate everything me and Robbie spoke about yesterday, but we was both of the opinion that Arsenal should be seen to be making inquiries about players like that if and when they become available. We know that Liverpool have dropped out. They've said so themselves. They were the forerunners, weren't they? In terms of getting Bellingham. I think that now that situation has happened, Arsenal should be keeping a close eye on that situation.
Yep.
What do you think?
I don't see why not. One thing that used to jar me with Arsenal when we were winning things and when we were great, and we still had that clout having moved into the Emirates, is we wasn't going for the top players and having to pay the top fees. Yeah. Obviously do it wisely, because paying over the odds, look at Chelsea, doesn't always work. But someone like Bellingham, homegrown, I think would fit in quite well with the current crop we've got. If
you look at Bellingham, right, you look at his attributes. We were talking about this yesterday, and again, I don't want to regurgitate everything we spoke about yesterday, but if you'll just allow me briefly to indulge, you look at that, what he's got, what he brings to the table, his physicality, the pace, the power, the skill, the leadership abilities he's got, his reading of the game, his tactical understanding. Everything is there. The youth, he's only 19. Those are the types of players that, as an Arsenal fan, you would want to see come to Arsenal, because they can usher in that new era. I mean, we're on the verge of something really exciting this season. Can you imagine that if we was able to get a player like Bellingham in for next season? You know what I mean? As much as I've bigged up Granit Xhaka, he is 30. Yeah. You know what I mean? You get someone like Bellingham who's in 19. You spoke earlier, Turkish, about ceilings and things like that. There is no ceiling for a guy like that. Yeah, he has been quality. I mean, whether it will happen, I don't know. Probably not. But I do think that Arsenal need to do their due diligence and get on it. I think of McAllister seems much more likely, but I'd like to see us test the waters at the very least. Listen, man, we are, again, this is something we spoke about yesterday. I think now we are on the verge of establishing ourselves as a proper powerhouse again in British football. That would mean that we're shopping in a different market to where we were before. We're not shopping in Next anymore. We can go down to Harrods comfortably or Selfridges and say, well, go on. What you got for me? Yeah, exactly. So, all right, number 8, you're going Xhaka, I'm going McAllister. Number 10. There's a few candidates, man. There is. I mean, obviously, Odegaard, speaking about Arsenal, Odegaard. Madison's had a very good season, for sure. Even though he could get relegated. What do you make of De Bruyne's season? De Bruyne, again, it's that natural talent versus form or what they've achieved this season. De Bruyne, as much as I rate him,
it sounds right to put him in because of who he is and what he's done. But if we're looking at this season alone,
exactly, I don't think you can, because let's be honest, even Pep this season, he's not used him consistently or as much as I thought they would.
Yeah,
I mean, even the other day when City played Bayern in the Champions League, he hooked De Bruyne. De Bruyne did look a bit pissed off.
And actually, he's been left on the bench for a
exactly.
couple of big games. Yeah.
How could you reasonably make an argument that he should be in the Premier League team of the season when he's not appearing regularly for his team?
True. Odegaard's also got 10 goals in the league. Something that a lot of fans demanded from him is more productivity in the final third, and he's brought that.
He's also showing great leadership skills.
Yeah,
I've got to shout out Martin Odegaard on this one, because I didn't see that, to be honest. I didn't see him as a leader of the team. Did you?
No, not if you're looking at character and profile and all of that. He did, but obviously
because I'm going to go as far as to say that I had my reservations on how he might cope with the physicality of the league, and that's not. Listen, I don't want to denigrate the man. I'm just being honest.
I think it's Ozil tax as well, because that was possibly our last one, and we just felt like these lightweight, number 10s. And
in previous years, he would have been seen as that archetypal kind of Arsenal player, in it, very talented, good on the ball. But when things get a bit sticky, he doesn't always show of himself. I don't think you can say that about Odegaard this season. He could still do a bit more, but I think he's proven himself that he's about that life. Man.
Brandon says De Bruyne has 5 goals and 14 assists. Great numbers, but when you're playing with Haaland as well, I mean, actually, look, let me not say that, because De Bruyne's regularly in and around the top of the assist chart.
Yeah, listen, I rate him. But I like watching him play.
He just hasn't been as prominent.
Exactly, but it has to be said, man. You know what I mean? The facts don't lie. He's not played on a consistent basis for City, and when he has started, a lot of the time he's been hooked. Sometimes I've wondered why, you know what I mean? I think he's not playing that bad, but Pep sees things, you know what I mean?
Something.
So on that alone, could you really elevate him above the likes of Odegaard? And even though we spoke about Maddison, Leicester having a very poor season by their standards. I mean, listen, they could get relegated, but even so, Maddison has been this standout player.
Yeah, he's been
phenomenal.
He was actually a very good shout from you.
Yeah. So
I probably would have forgotten.
And it's interesting, wasn't it? Because I remember having conversation with Arsenal fans. Remember when we was debating whether Odegaard should come back? A lot of people were saying they prefer Maddison to Odegaard because he's more of a goal-scoring midfielder.
Yeah. Very different players. That's the thing. You'd take them both. I think that's what it is, and you rotate accordingly depending on the opposition. But Arsenal channel, we're going to lean towards Odegaard. I think we're doing it again. Cool. We're leaning towards Odegaard. That's the midfield done. Front three now. We mentioned before, on the left, we both go for Martinelli.
Yeah.
I think in not necessarily recent weeks. I think this season overall, I think Grealish has kicked on, and in recent weeks, he's probably been City's best player, or just behind Haaland in terms of. I
would go as far as to say that Grealish this season has probably been City's most improved player. Him and Ake. But if you factor in that Grealish had that unbelievable price tag, 100 million or whatever, and a lot of people, I think it's fair to say that he didn't live up to the hype last season. But this season now, he's got a season under his belt. He knows what it takes. He's spoken openly of, having to adjust his game from when he was at Villa to when he come to City. He's now appears to be getting that right, and you're seeing that on the pitch. And he looks phenomenal, I've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, he's never going to live up to 100 million price tag because he's not a 100 million player. But what he's doing this season is stopping people from mentioning his price tag because he's playing an important role in it. But Matoma's had a very good season so
phenomenal,
far. I wouldn't put him ahead of Martinelli, but I mean, he's had a very, very good season for Brighton.
When you talk about players who just come from nowhere and have just, shocked everyone, it's got to be him, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah, he's just come from nowhere like that, bro.
And now he's probably worth 56, maybe more.
He's a diamond in the rough, for sure.
It's mad. To be honest,
how long will he stay at Brighton for, I wonder?
This is his second season for them, right? How old is he? Let me just quickly double check. 25 years old. So
he had a decent World Cup as well.
He's headed into his prime
for Japan.
Yeah, Japan. Yeah.
He had a decent workout. So the guy can play, man.
Yeah, Matone was a
He's
shout.
consistent. You know what I mean? So
Matone was a shout, but we're going with Martinelli.
yeah,
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, the stats say it all as well. Man.
Yeah, and we're the league leaders, and he's the leader of the goals for us. On the right, I mean, for me, Saka's the clear option on the right.
It's got to be Saka, the star boy. He's got to be in there, man.
I don't even know who else comes close on the right hand side, if I'm honest.
Well, people was talking about Rashford on that side as well.
On the left, I wouldn't.
I
Mahrez
think most neutral observers, non-biased observers, would have Xhaka in that position.
Yeah, goes without saying. I think it's not one we even need to debate. Saka, cool. Yeah. Up front, I think is another one that is hard to debate. Haaland.
I was going to say, cause
yeah.
I thought he was going to say Jesus.
Nah, it has to be Haaland.
I'd love to be able to say Jesus, but you can't argue with Haaland.
30 goals with 9 games to go, on the cusp of breaking the record. He's just broken the record in terms of total goals scored in a season in all competitions for a Premier League player. I think Ronaldo had 44 in his Ballon d'Or season at United. Haaland's got 45 now.
You know, one thing I've been thinking about in recent weeks is, imagine if Haaland was playing up front for Arsenal. Do you think would have got more goals than he's got now? I think quite possibly, you know.
Possibly, but at the same time, remember when he first came in and when City were dropping points, every time City dropped points, people would look at Haaland and say it's because he doesn't really factor in terms of linking up and playing style that we're used to seeing from Man City, whereas Jesus came into the Arsenal side and brought us something different to what our strikers had. I'm not too sure. I think you know, Haaland's going to score wherever he goes. He's done that. He's done that anyway. So,
but it could be argued that Arsenal play possibly a little bit more directly than City do. City still tend to pass it around a bit more.
Yeah.
Whereas Arsenal possibly a bit more direct. So it's possible. Remember?
True. Yeah.
I can remember a few months back, there was some people were saying that Haaland was possibly slowing City up a little bit because of the way they play, and Haaland's not a natural fit. You could argue that Haaland is a more natural fit for a team like Arsenal than they are for City, who do like to dwell on the ball.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean,
because
play more passes.
When he was
Arsenal get it forward a bit quicker.
When he was at Dortmund had that, you know, quick playing style as well, where at Haaland at Man City, you're seeing very similar types of goals in the 6-yard box. You know, a lot of headers, a lot of tap-ins, right place, right time. But the Haaland prior to Man City, I saw a lot of goals where he's running through on goal, finishing from just inside the box, and more one-on-ones with the defenders. We're not seeing that as much now because, like you said, Man City tend to pass, and break teams down like that. But yeah, Haaland it is. Yeah,
it's got to be Haaland, man. Although, listen, Jesus got injured at a crucial time. That's kind of slowed up his progress, his goal scoring rate. Now he's come back. He's getting them goals again. So
you're not going to try to throw Eddie in there?
Eddie's time will come, but it's not quite got there yet.
Haaland it is. We pretty much agreed on every position aside from me picking Roger, you picking Casemiro. A lot of the chat have kind of agreed here and there as well. Obviously, we got some.
It's a very good debate, you know. It's a very good debate.
And I was about to say a lot can change in the last 8-9 games.
I think it might do.
But we'll see. We'll touch on it again come the end of the
season. Let's do another show.
Yeah.
At the end of the season, when we can definitively state who's been the best player in all those positions. Because let's face it, still 8 games or whatever left, so still time to play.
Let's do it. Yeah. Last super chat I had here from Pin, that was the one that said, who said Martinelli has not won anything? What about the FA Cup? All right, last bit that we'll move on to now is looking at the free agents come this summer.
Right.
Not sure why I went through and picked them out, but with what will be a big summer for us ahead with Champions League football back, I just thought, who is available? You know, we've heard the names available in the Premier League, but I wanted to see in Europe. And I've listed down some names, some that might be of interest, some that well off the radar, and some that I've just put there because they're massive. But looking at the Premier League, there's 4 names I've picked out.
Right.
Yuri Tillemans, we all know.
I'm a fan.
Wilfried Zaha, we all know.
Yep.
Ilkay Gundogan, his contract's coming up, and N'Golo Kante's contract is coming up.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because Kante is been phenomenal over the years, but it could be argued that he's hit his ceiling and he's on his way down.
Yeah.
even for a great player like that.
Do you think he's been underrated?
I do. I do think
yeah.
he's been underrated in previous years, but I would also say that the signs are there that he's possibly reached his peak and is on his way down. I don't like to put it like that because he's been such a phenomenal player, but he's getting more injuries now. He's not having quite the same effect as he was having in his pomp when he was at Leicester and then when he first went to Chelsea. I think you're seeing that now. He's getting substituted more. Remember before, Kante was just non-stop, man. Engine, proper engine, bro. And quality as well. It could be argued that he's slowing up a little bit now. Like I said, he's getting a few more injuries. He's not quite the same player that he was. But then listen, that's inevitable. That's going to happen to everybody, bro. That's just a natural order of life.
Yeah, it's true.
But it could be argued, though, you get a player like that through the door, he could still do a very good job.
He's only 30. He's only 32. And when you look at the age of players now and how far they kind of go into the latter stages,
and his fitness levels compared to that of the normal player, are going to be exalted, aren't they? So it's a difficult.
So if you had to, okay, I'm going to give you two options. You either pick one out of Tielemans, Zaha, Gundogan, and Kante, or you don't want any of them. Considering we'll go in Champions League and you think we can do better.
I'd rather Bellingham, but hey.
So basically you're coming with, you wouldn't want any of those, you want better.
I would prefer to see Arsenal, especially if we go on and win the league. Yeah. Flex is the exact
not
word
United view flex, but flex muscles a little bit.
Exactly. Stick your chest out and say we have arrived as a big club again. We're back, and now we want to show that in the transfer market. We're going after the big guns. We want them. That's not to say that you have to sign all big name players, but you know what I'm saying. If the likes of a Bellingham, there's a possibility that he might become available. I'd like to see Arsenal show that ambition and
go for it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Pull out all the stops and try and get him in a meaningful way. I don't mean just use a name for publicity, for clout. I'm talking about going after, getting in contact with the requisite people at Dortmund and saying, listen, man, we're interested. What's it going to take to get the deal done?
Yep, I actually agree with that. Give it a go. All right, Premier League out the way. Looking at La Liga now, and earlier I mentioned to you the end of a cycle in football, and I think this list kind of highlights that even more. So contracts coming to an end in La Liga. As of a couple of days ago when I did this list, I don't know if anything's changed, but Benzema's contract's coming to an end. Toni Kroos's contract's coming to an end. Luka Modric, Sergio Busquets. You know, big players on the big stages, as well as Dani Ceballos. I'll just put him there because he's a familiar name. And Asensio, and I put Asensio there as probably the one I would pick out of the bunch, because I just feel like he can play in Saka's position. He can also assist in Odegaard's position a bit. But when I look at Saka's position, okay, I look at Martinelli's position. We've got Martinelli, Trossard, and Emil Smith-Rowe. In Saka's position, it was Saka, Marquinhos. Marquinhos went on loan to Norwich. Then it was Saka, Reece, Nelson. Reece's contract's coming to an end this summer. I think Asensio has a good age. I think he's technically good enough to play in Arteta's system. So
there's one name that you read out there that stood out for me straight away. Benzema, man.
Yeah.
Quality.
You'd still go for him at 35?
I would. Out of those names that you've mentioned, to me, he's the standout name. Because he can do it all, bro.
Yeah. But there's a few standouts. I think Modric and Busquets are standouts, but...
Yeah, but for me, that was a name that stood out from that list you read out.
And someone in the chat said, well, you know, we need Champions League experienced players.
Yeah,
would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, he's also retired from international football, isn't he?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if he's retired, but
I think I saw something where he'd fallen out with it. You know, he didn't go to the World Cup and there was all that conjecture around why. And then at the last minute, they said they would entertain him having him back, and then he said no. And then I think after the World Cup, he formally announced his retirement from international football. So that's going to give him a few more years, I would have thought, in terms of playing domestic football. To me, Guy, he's a phenomenal player, and as a striker, he has everything. I'd agree with that. And goals, and as we all know, is the most important thing in football. And when you got a guy that can score goals as regularly as he does.
Do you remember the days we was linked to him every summer?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And okay, we would be getting him. He would be past his prime.
Yeah.
But he's still a phenomenal talent. Still somebody that could come off the bench and do stuff.
Yeah. Not a bad shout. Not a bad shout. Listen, all these, well, I say all the first names initially mentioned, Benzema, Modric, Busquets in particular, they've done it at the highest level and been integral. But I'd go for Asensio because the age and I think the profile and the position.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to hate on that. That's okay.
Serie A, I only picked out Rabiot, so we can move on from there. I think Rabiot, 28, his time has come and gone. He interested me when he was a bit younger, not so much anymore. I was actually surprised United went in for him last summer, but his contract's coming to him. Bundesliga, I picked out 3 players: Marcus Thuram, Lilian Thuram's son, left winger, 25 years of age. Then you have Rafael Guerrero, fullback, 29 years of age, and a player we've been linked to even this season, Evan Ndika, 23, left-sided centre-back. I don't know much about him. I don't know much about Marcus Thuram either. Guerrero, I've seen a fair
bit of Thuram in the World Cup. He looked decent. I don't think he's as good as his dad. But,
that would be so. Yeah,
Lilian Thuram for all those.
That's hard shoes to fill. I can't lie. Yeah. He's actually, I'd say he's a legend, Lilian Thuram.
Yeah, he is.
I'd say he's a legend. Yeah. But there's no names there that really stand out as you know. Maybe Guerrero left back because Tierney might want to seek pastures new, depending on what happens with that situation. But even then, not sure that's the profile that.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about whether there'd be the right profile player that Arteta would go for. I'm not so sure none of those would be.
And League One, we have Lionel Messi and Houssem Aouar, a player we were linked to. Yeah. Obviously, Messi's there. We know Messi's going to either go back to Barca, to the US. I don't really see him in Saudi Arabia, if I'm honest with you, but I have read reports that is an option. I'm sure it is an option with the money available. But I think either a return to Barca, with Barca fans recently still singing his name and, trying to push for that, or a US team.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to go back to Barca at some stage. He's always spoken of his love. In fact, he's spoken of going back there one day. Even when he left there, he said he'd like to go back there one day.
Yeah,
that will probably happen. Because you could argue that whether he's been a total success at PSG, couldn't you?
You could, because
he's not won the Champions League.
I think he came in and the expectation was Champions League.
Yeah, and they've not done that.
But then you look at his numbers at the age of 35, 14 goals, 14 assists. I know it's not the greatest league in the world.
But you know what's the thing about Messi, which is quite sad from my perspective, is that I'd have loved to have seen how he would have got on in the Premier League. I think he would have been phenomenal, but given his age now and where he's at in his career, would he even want to come to the Premier League? It's physically demanding, non-forgiving, shark-infested waters. I'm not sure if that would suit him at this stage in his career, especially.
Probably not. And how hungry is he now that he's won everything that there is to win? He's completed it.
You're right.
He's
the World Cup thing was just eclipsed.
Yeah, that was the cherry on top of a beautiful cake that his career has kind of produced.
But speaking from a position of bias, I'd have loved to have seen him in the Premier League, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of
course.
See if
he could replicate that stuff.
Listen,
I think he would have done as well.
I've been lucky enough to watch Messi live, and in my opinion, Messi's the GOAT. He was the GOAT before the World Cup. I think the World Cup kind of proved and won people over that doubted. But in terms of watching a footballer play football, it's been beautiful watching Messi over the years.
I can imagine. Yeah.
There's no.
What game was it you saw?
I've seen a few. With
Messi.
Most recent is Barca, Arsenal Champions League.
Oh right,
3-1.
Yeah.
When El Nene scored the.
I remember that game actually. Yeah, but you was actually in the ground and saw him up close in person.
Yeah,
phenomenal, right?
Yeah, he's different. And even if you go on YouTube and look at his compilations, there is no player compilations that come close to his. There is none.
But you know what? It's always a beautiful thing in sport when you can go and say you've seen one of the GOATs or one of the greats perform live and then they lived up to expectation. Because sometimes that doesn't always happen.
It's true.
You might go and see one of the greats in whatever sport.
And
for whatever reason, they might have been past their best or maybe they weren't having their greatest day. But if you can go along and watch that person and they've performed and you've witnessed that is something special.
Yeah. It's something to tell
you can count yourself fortunate that you've seen that.
100%, because these players don't come around very often.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and listen, as someone said, Maradona's close. I get that Maradona's in there, Pele's in there. There's other players in and around the conversation, but for me, Messi is just too good. And Houssem Aouar, we were linked to him. He's still 24. His contract's run down now. I don't think he plays much anymore in terms of game time. Maybe that's because of the contract issue. But yeah, I don't think he interests us anymore.
No, I think that ship sailed, hasn't it?
Yeah, sailed, gone. Au revoir. And just to round it off, because we have just passed 6 p.m. Hit the like button, people. There's 2,000 in the building, only 300 likes. I've also whilst doing the research for the free agents, I've come across another indication of a cycle ending. Arsenal and ex-Arsenal players with contracts coming to end. Listen, Reece Nelson is the anomaly. I'll put him there. He's still young and he's still got a bright future, hopefully, ahead of him. But Giroud's contracts coming to an end. Chamberlain's contracts coming to an end. Danny Ceballos, I mentioned. Alexis Sanchez, Aaron Ramsey, and Kolasinac. These are names that...
I think, you know what I'm going to say from those names that you've read out, the person that seems to have fallen off the most is Alexis Sanchez. Because I remember when he was at Arsenal, man, he was, at one stage, he was kind of headed towards, dare I say it, that kind of Henry status, isn't it? Not quite as good as Henry, but you know what I'm saying? He was the man. He was the man. He was definitely the man, because he was, he in terms of what he would produce for us in games where, you know, tight games or games where we didn't look like we'd get anything from, or even games where... And I'm not saying, I want to qualify this because I don't want people to come at me in the comments. I'm not saying he was as good as Henry. What I'm saying is the comparison is in the fact that he was becoming a talisman for Arsenal. He was the talisman, he was. In the same way that Henry was the talisman back in the day. You kind of looked at him and see he's that figurehead. He's that guy, the go-to person. Yes. Yeah, everyone looked at him. And then he went to Man United and he's just fallen off, man. It's been quite dramatic. And I'm glad he chose to go United. I'm glad. Why do you think that was then? Because he just fell off a cliff. Not just for domestic football, even international football. I'm not sure why, you know. I'm not sure why. I think things suited him at Arsenal. I think that whole talisman, that, you know, what you mentioned about the go-to guy, I think that suited him. Whereas he went to a club that had multiple stars. Because if you look at another one, you could compare him to Robin van Persie. Robin van Persie was kind of the man at Arsenal, but then when he went to United, he still maintained that level of form. He was still a very good player. Yeah, 100%. That's evidence he won a title with it. But with Alexis Sanchez, man, it seemed to go south. The minute he went up north, his form went south. It was reported that he wanted to come where he not inquired, but he asked about the potential of coming back. Yeah, but his form seriously just seemed to fall off a cliff. And it was kind of difficult to know the exact reason why. Maybe people out there watching this show can put it in the comments as to why they felt his form just... As someone said, Jose was too defensive for him. That could be one of the reasons why. But would that explain his because his international form for Chile fell off too? Yeah, he just fell off. A lot of people got old overnight. The money at the time as well can, you know, lack of desire. Sometimes, you know, when you get the bag, you know, sometimes when you're chasing the bag, that hunger, there's there's no other bigger motivation than hunger to get the bag and sort not only yourself out, but your family and your the generations to come. And what was he was on 500k or close to 500k at United, if I'm not mistaken. If it wasn't that, it was still a hell of a lot. So maybe it was that as well that played a part. When he was at Arsenal, he was close to being a legendary player, wasn't he? Yeah. And then you've left Arsenal in dubious circumstances. You've gone to Man United. Okay, still a very big club, and your form's just fallen away dramatically. That was kind of hard. Now he hasn't got a legacy in England. The Arsenal fans don't give a shit. United fan never gave a shit. It is what it is. We move. Couple super chats before we wrap it up. Laurie Ricky says Asensio is a great fit as competition backup for Odegaard. And Rodrigo says the highest scoring Brazilian in the Premier League is Diego Costa with 20. But as much as I understand, Costa Brazilian, he did he's Spain, not exactly. So I think it's very different. All right, Laurie. Love as always. It's been great, man. I really liked it. We must do it again soon. We spoke earlier, didn't we, about at the end of the season catching up on the team of the season stuff. There's still a few games to go, but I look forward to doing that. Man. Hopefully it's still the same team, because there's a lot of Arsenal players, and then that would mean we got there might be a few more. There might be an all Arsenal 11. We'll see. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed, people. Big up Laurie, my guest on the show, my co-host. Big up everyone in the chat that's played a part. Still nearly 2k in the building. Hit the like button on the way out, and love for the love as always, people. All right, peace. Respect.